Greetings, welcome, and thanks so much for joining me. It's Christian of Standing Stones Healing, founder of the Reiki Business Collective and host of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. And in this week's episode of the podcast, we're talking about developing our intuition. Developing our intuition for your Reiki business. How do you develop your intuition? Now, I talk about it in the podcast, but I'm going to share some things with you on this video, and I will include the link to the podcast episode so that you can tune in for more about developing your intuition. As a matter of fact, my intuition told me that my cat was going to get rowdy once I hit record. But when it comes to our intuition, this is something that Reiki practitioners so often are worried about. They're afraid that their intuition isn't good enough. They're afraid that their intuition is blocked. They're afraid that their intuition isn't what it quote unquote should be. I'm here to encourage you that you are intuitive. We are all intuitive beings, and I don't believe that our intuition is something to develop as much as it is something to allow to arise and come out and be used. Now, here's what I mean by that. When we talk about developing our intuition, so often we're given exercises to do. You know, like the kind of exercise where someone holds up a card in each hand and says, okay, which is the blue card? And then you're supposed to intuit which card they're holding up to you. Of course, they don't have the blue side facing you because if you have vision, that would be pretty easy. But they hold up the card, which card is the blue card, and you guess, well, no, you intuit which card is the blue card, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I suck at that. I'm terrible. If you hold up two cards and say which one is the blue one, like I'll get it wrong every time. It's a 50-50 chance, and I'll still get it wrong every time. What are the odds of that? But the thing is that, yes, we can do exercises to develop our intuition, but really, I believe that developing our intuition is so much more about just allowing the messages to come to us and trusting them. I believe that our intuition is already developed. Your intuition is already developed. And so what that means is that there's nothing that we have to do to strengthen our intuition. Rather, what it's really about is allowing the intuition, the messages to come through and trusting them. That's really where the developing lies. Now, one of the big things that I believe is a challenge for us with our intuition is all of the external noise that we have going on out in the world. You know, if you think about it, our world is pretty noisy, whether it's notifications on our phone, bells and whistles and dings, pop-ups on social media, all kinds of notifications, distractions that we are subject to constantly. From the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed. This is true for the vast majority of us. And with all of these bells and whistles and notifications, we are always distracted. Our attention is always being pulled elsewhere, particularly externally. Our focus and our attention is always being pulled outside of ourselves. And when we've got all of that distraction, all of the bells and whistles and noise of the external world, it's very difficult for us to focus in and allow our own inner voice to be heard, to allow the messages that we are always receiving to be received. And so there, I believe, is where developing our intuition really lies. It's in increasingly drowning out or slowing down or quieting the distractions and increasingly opening up to our own inner knowing, our own inner voice, our own inner noise, if you want to call it that, where it is quiet and still inside of us. And so I believe that developing our intuition is really about getting to the point of quiet and stillness and really letting all of those outside distractions go and focusing in on our own inner knowing. So there's a great trick that I love to use for helping us kind of cut through all of the noise, because the noise isn't just in the form of the bells and whistles and distractions. The noise is also in the form of our own thinking. How many of you have racing thoughts where you're just always thinking, the thoughts are always going? Maybe you even have anxious kinds of thoughts where always your mind is going and you have a hard time quieting the mind or getting still or sitting still. It's our own inner chatter that really keeps the intuition, the messages from coming through as well. So it's not just external noise, it's internal noise too. And I have a very powerful exercise for cutting through that internal noise, all of the thinking that happens. And I encourage you, when you're faced with a question, some uncertainty, some doubts. Let's say maybe you're asking yourself, is it time to start my Reiki business? Should I start my Reiki business? I want to encourage you to try this exercise. So grab a penny. Well, if you are in the United States, you would grab a penny. If you are in some other area of the world, it might not be a penny. It might be some other kind of coin. But grab a coin. And I want to encourage you to take that coin and ask yourself the question, do I want to start my Reiki business? Should I start my Reiki business? And designate one side of the coin, yes, and the other side, no. So heads up, yes, I'm going to start my Reiki business. And tails up, no, I'm not going to start my Reiki business. You then take that coin and you flip it. Catch it in your hand. Don't look at it. And then flip it over without looking at it onto the top of your other hand. Now, remember the question, should I start my Reiki business or not? Remove your hand and look down at the penny. And notice, is it face up, heads up, or tails up? Now, I want you to notice your immediate reaction, how you immediately feel, what you immediately think, what your maybe immediate gut reaction is, whatever it might be, the immediate split-second thing that you see or feel or experience when you see whether the penny is heads up or tails up. Because here's the real truth. It doesn't matter what the penny says. It doesn't matter what the penny says. So this exercise is not about the penny. It's about the feeling, the thought, the experience that you had when you saw whether the penny was heads up or tails up. Because here's why. Let's say you flipped that penny and you saw it and it was tails up. And that meant, oh no, now is the time not to start your Reiki business. If your first feeling was, oh, no, do it again, there's your answer. You wanted the penny to be heads up. You want to start your Reiki business. Your own inner self, your higher power, your intuition, call it what you want, knows that you want to start your Reiki business. And that is your answer. Or let's say that you flipped a penny and it was face up, heads up, and wow, your immediate reaction was, yes, that's awesome. There's your answer. You want to start your Reiki business. Now, sometimes when I share this activity, this exercise with people, I'll say, what was your first response? Oh, I didn't feel anything. I didn't experience anything. There was nothing there. And so my question is, what did you think or feel or sense before nothing was there? Because that nothing actually is about the thinking, the clouding over of our real inner sense of knowing. And so if you flip the penny, you look at it and it is heads up, and you're like, I don't know, I don't feel anything. No, no. What did you feel before you didn't feel anything? Because that nothing is probably part of your thinking brain. That, oh, I don't feel anything, is probably part of the internal chatter that says, oh, no, you can't start your Reiki business now. Who do you think you are to start your Reiki business? What are you, crazy? It takes money to start a Reiki business and you don't have any money. That's not true, by the way. But that I don't know is probably what you thought after you felt or experienced or sensed something. And so notice what that very first sense or feeling is, because that's where your intuition lies. That split second before thinking comes in, before the chatter that says, no, okay, best out of three, when you didn't get the answer that you wanted. That inner chatter is what's clouding over your intuition. I guarantee you that your intuition is there. I guarantee you that your intuition is alive and well. I guarantee that you are intuitive. And tapping into our intuition is really about quieting the noise, quieting the distractions, and tapping into our own sense of quiet, that own stillness within. That's where the intuition lies. Another thing I want to encourage you about developing your intuition is really about trusting your intuition. And so trusting that that first thing that you sense or experience is the right answer for you. And that if you say, oh, it says start your Reiki business. Oh, no, that can't be right. I can't start my Reiki business now. This penny's got to be wrong. That's not right. My intuition, it's always off. What does it know about whether or not it's time to start my Reiki business? No way. It's about trusting the messages that come to us. It's about trusting the information that we receive in especially that still and quiet space where we can allow the information to arise. So our intuition is not about reaching or grasping for information. It's about allowing the information, the messages to arise and to come to us. Surely we are always receiving information through our intuition, whether that is through listening, clairaudience, or clairvoyance, or clairalience, smelling or tasting, whatever it might be. We all receive intuitive information in different ways. And so it's important for us to recognize that we can receive intuitive information in all kinds of ways, and that the intuitive information we receive is going to be special and particular to us and might be different for someone else. Me, for instance, I'm very clairaudient. I receive a lot of information through hearing, so I'll hear voices in my head. I know that that sounds crazy. Don't worry, it's not crazy. But I'll hear voices in my head. That's how I receive a lot of intuitive information. But someone else might not. Maybe they might sense something in their heart or their gut or their head. I'll also receive intuitive information through feeling energy, particularly in my head. One way is not better than another. And so if you're saying, oh, I don't receive messages through hearing like Christians, something's wrong with my intuition. No way. We just all receive it differently. What matters is that we work to tap into the way in which we might receive information, and that we trust that the way that we receive information is going to be different from the way someone else does, and it's not better or worse. It's just different. I really believe that in that way, we cannot compare our intuition with someone else's. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we may have a tendency to look to other people and say their intuition is so well developed. Mine is not. What's wrong with mine? And really, when you think about it, we can't compare our intuition to anyone else's because we all receive intuitive information differently. And so maybe you just have a gut feeling all of the time that you are getting for your intuitive information that doesn't make it any better than or less than receiving intuitive information in another way. So please do trust your own inner knowing. Please do trust your own intuition. Please do what you need to do to cut out the distractions and the noise in order to simply allow the information to arise. I'm sending so many blessings and best wishes to your intuition. Are you going to try the penny trick? Try the penny trick. Let me know what you think. Drop it down in the comments for me and let me know. Let us know if you tried the penny trick and what you think. Drop it down in the comments for us. Let us know, how do you develop your intuition? What are your thoughts on intuition? And please do feel free to tune in to that Reiki Business podcast episode, Build Your Reiki Business podcast episode about developing your intuition. I'm sending so many blessings and best wishes to your intuition.